Hi, I'm George Boles, and I'm one of the two members working on the Gather Up texting app. I'll let my partner Kennedy discuss the features of the app, or the purpose of the app, but I'll get it started here by signing in. And when I click sign in, it will automatically go to my Google account, get my information, and log me in. As we see here, there's nothing happening yet. So I'm going to pass it along to Kennedy to introduce himself and talk for a second.
I'm Kennedy Schnieders. This is our application GatherUp. GatherUp is an application designed to make group messaging and planning events much more efficient. Generally, when you have group chats with a large number of individuals, planning events is somewhat difficult because if you join the conversation late, there's already dozens, if not hundreds, of messages of people trying to plan an outing, a study session, lunch, whatever it may be, and it's hard to figure out what the concrete plan is. The intent with GatherUp was to implement standard kind of group messaging and group creation features, but also give groups and users the ability to schedule kind of concrete events that users can be notified of, so that outings with sets of people and the groups you're in are much easier to plan. Using the app, you can sign in using your Google account, and it takes you to the first of three tabs on the home page. Groups is as easy as clicking the floating action button, naming your group, and then including group members. The user that creates the group is automatically included in the list of members added to the group.
So Kennedy right now is about to create a group. So as we see here, we got a group message happening. So we click in it, and a new view happens, and I'll write him a message. And we see here that my name shows up to Kennedy, and it will have a message. We'll go in the other group, and there's nothing in here. We come back.
Once you're in a group, text messaging is the same as it usually is. Or receive messages come up on the left with the sender's name.
Kennedy has replied. Let's write him a message. So we're trying to make plans here. So I said, do you want to go grab dinner? Still nothing here, and we come back, and we'll wait for him to reply. We see here, so he replied back saying, sure, man. So I'll say, do you want to create an event for it? Actually,
When a group wants to create,
so I changed my mind. So I said, you know what, let me do it. So I'll go in here. We'll say, let's do, for activity title, we'll call it dinner. Let's say I'm feeling McDonald's. We'll set today's date as May 15th, 2018. And we'll set the time at, it's 8:30 or 8:45 right now Central Time, but we'll just say 10 p.m. because we'll assume we're in the same time zone. And I'll click that event button. and we see how the messages showed up. We see the styling of the messaging app with my messages being in blue and Kennedy's showing his name and his event and his text. This could also show or be done with other group members. So these groups have no limits. So a group could possibly have up to 1,000 members.
Once an event has been created for a group, it is saved into Firebase and references the parent group that it was created from. You can then navigate to the Today tab in the application, where you can go through each of the activities that you have going on that day. Here's the dinner activity that George just created in the CSSE 483 group we ran. The time of the activity is displayed, as well as the top voted suggestion for the event. Now I can go in, I can add a new suggestion, we'll say Subway, and that suggestion gets saved into Firebase under this application. Now my vote automatically goes towards the Subway that I just added, but I can change that and click on McDonald's, and that's the top voted suggestion up here. It also tells me what my vote is currently set at. I can also change that back to Subway. If you have more than one activity going on in a day, you can iterate through by clicking previous and next activity buttons along the top. Further, if you want to have a broader outlook on what's going on later in that week, you can click on the Calendar tab, and by selecting different days of the week, it will display what activities you have going on each of those days in a scrolling view on the bottom side.
All right, now that we've seen Kennedy show how events work, let's discuss some of the tech stuff that we didn't really learn in this class but was implemented. One of the first things that was hard to figure out was how to create these text messages. We learned about recycler views, but we didn't learn about how to create shapes, manipulate these views, and get them to look like what we want them. So setting up this text messaging display was something that required a lot of looking up, a lot of thinking outside the box, because I had to learn how to create a blue rectangle and an orange rectangle, how to get it to display when one or the other. We also had to learn how to work with dates. So in the calendar, when we click here, we see the dinner event, and that showed us how these dates are being set to what we need them to. The same thing occurred with our today events and so on. So learning about how to manipulate data in a format we wanted was something that we had to think outside the box on, as well as implementing new views. So while the class did teach how to use a recycler view, the class didn't really explain how to have two. The class didn't explain how we can have the different text views and having those all be in one recycler view and alternating between them as need be. And that kind of overall explains our app. And also using Firebase, we were able to set up a data schema, and that allowed for creating of different groups, having those messages show up only in groups, and having those events also work in showing those privacies to only the user get to see them. So overall, I hope you enjoyed our app. We worked really hard on it. I think this is a phenomenal application, and there are a lot of real-world uses, and I hope that some of the common apps that are being used today implement some of these features, especially the idea to view all your events in one place. Because while we saw it on a small scale, someone who is making constant plans with friends, this becomes a very handy tool. And when you're done, and just for security reasons, you log out, and that is it. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much.